cuts back for Harfield. 1-0 Burnley. Scott Harfield. He's been threatening that recently. And all the Burnley players run to the Darwin end. Oh, what a goal! What a goal from Robbie Blake! Burnley's first goal in the Premier League is something very, very special.
Wade Elliott has that change of pace and he's got away from Montgomery. It's the path of McCann and the follow-up finds the net. What a strike from Wade Elliott! A bolt from the Claret and Blue.
Oh goodness me! What a goal from Patterson! If that is to be the one that takes them to Wembley, you cannot argue with that. Pure quality.
Here goes Mike Conroy. Still time for a winner maybe. John Francis! They came to York in their thousands. They're going home as champions.
I mean, if there's any justice in the world, Burnley would surely score from this corner. Swung right in there. Ball in there. Yeah! Michael Keane! Oh, that's justice! That is justice at the Amex Stadium. Burnley are level and deserve to be.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Turfcast podcast pre-game show. Finally, we look like we've clicked, don't we? Or we did against Wigan. Admittedly, Wigan didn't look great, but we finally look like we've clicked. I like the look of Vitinho at left back, or left wing back, whatever it is in this new system. I just spoke to a mate then at Lower House Cricket Club, or near Lower House Cricket Club, about does Markson get back in? Like, we've all been so impressed with Markson, but then obviously suspended for his stupidity against Blackpool. Vinny comes in, and Vinny was class. It was between him and Brownhill for the man of the match for me, and I think Brownhill just about got it, deservedly so against Wigan. But 5-1 against Wigan. I've wrote in my Lancs Live column that you've probably seen by now how good we looked against Wigan, but we need to follow it up now, don't we? We can't just beat Wigan 5-1 and then draw 1-1 at home the next game, you know what I mean? Because we've got some tough games coming up. Millwall have been a little bit hit and miss, to be fair, but then you've got West Brom away, then Norwich at home, two Fridays consecutively. So we need to follow it up now. It is no good winning 5-1, then drawing your next games 1-1, and then losing the next two, is it? Because then we're just one step forward, two steps back. But of course, it's the pre-game show. Quick turnaround this week because we are playing on Tuesday. So I'm delighted to announce that we have got a Millwall fan here. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad, fella. Not too bad at all. Thanks for inviting me on.
No, Mickey, it's a pleasure to have you on as well. So talk to me about Millwall as well then, because obviously we're here, it's a pre-game show, we're here to talk about Millwall. I don't know anything about Millwall, I'm going to be honest with you. That's why we get fans of the opposition on to tell me things about your season so far. So let's talk about your season so far. 16th at the minute. I was surprised to see that because I thought you were a little bit higher than that, because I remember thinking, Millwall are doing all right. And I've looked, 2 wins and 3 defeats, and a draw, and you haven't won away from home yet. But we'll get into your away form in a minute. What's your season so far been like then?
Hit and miss. We started great against Stoke. We basically come out full of energy, ready to go, and then we've had two games after that where we were 2-0 down, and then we come back, and then obviously against Coventry we won 3-2, but it's very hit and miss. I don't know what it is. Don't know if the formation isn't working. Don't know if the players can be bothered. Something's not completely right. But again, you dig into the stats, it sort of tells you a slightly different story. But again, what we've been saying for probably the last season or two is that we're just missing creativity. We just need strikers or good attacking midfielders with something about them. And that will give us, that potentially could give us that little edge to take us forward. But I don't know. It's going to be an interesting game against you, especially as you just start hitting form and we seem to can't shoot for an open barn door. Do you know what I mean? So.
Yeah, funny you mentioned that actually, because I wasn't aware of that. You've gone 2 goals down in a few games. Was that quite quick, or was it sort of like later on in the game?
No, both of them have been within the first half.
Well, this is what I mean. This is why I'm interested now. I wasn't aware of that because against Blackpool, we were 2-0 up after 11 minutes. I think they're about 15 minutes against Wigan as well. So we tend to start quick. All right, we've been pegged back against Blackpool. We won't discuss that one too much. Yeah, so it could be another 2-0 in 15 minutes again. But the good things for you guys is 2-0 up inside 11 minutes against Blackpool, didn't win the game. Obviously went on to easily win against Wigan. Easily is a bit harsh, but we won Wigan quite comfortably. But they still had chances to get back into it. Obviously, there was the penalty where they scored and they had a chance to make it 2-2. And you sound like comeback king. So is it a little bit of a worry, though, that you could start slowly and the game potentially be out of sight by about 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah. I mean, if you play like you did towards the end of the Wigan game, where you were just looking as if you could score for fun, and you come out like that in the first half, then we're bang in trouble. I could see that if you can get 2-3 in on the first half, I think it'll be game over. Whether or not we come back as comeback kings, whatever the halftime talk is, where all of a sudden we come back out. It's as if we turn up for the first half and basically we use the first half as a warm up, and we just turn up, don't really do a lot, and then the second half we actually start playing, and that's where we've come back. But yeah, it's Swansea, we come back 2-0 down, we come back. I think 2-0 down within 30 minutes, we come back. And Coventry, I think was in 17 minutes, 2-0 down, and then we come back, and then we get the late winner and come back. I mean, Swansea, I think it was Swansea, I don't think we could even score. It was the fact that they scored 2 own goals in the 93rd and 95th what brought us back. So we're not really comeback kings. We're comeback kings with own goals as well. So yeah, it's a worrying time. I mean, we haven't got a proven 15, 20 goal scorer, a year or a season player. What we desperately need. We've got some new players in who are, I think, going to need to be bedding. The German guy is Vlogslammer, I think his name is. If I pronounce it right, but he looks as if he's an interesting piece of work. He looks as if he could be proper dangerous within the league. But again, they're coming from other leagues, same as Fleming. We've got to let them settle in a bit, and we've got to have a manager who wants to play them. At the moment, he don't want to seem to play certain players. He substituted the last game, brought 3 players on who should have started. So, yeah. But you know what Rowet's like anyway.
Yeah, well, I'll get onto Rout in a minute. I do want to discuss your away form, though, because that could potentially be a worry as well for you. Because you lost at Cambridge, right? EFL Cup. You probably started a week inside. I'm not sure. Lost at Sheffield United. Tough place to go, to be fair. Lost at Norwich. Again, tough place to go, to be fair. 2-0 down against Swansea, and yeah, they might have scored 2 own goals, but obviously the pressure would have been on them to have to score them own goals. So, is your away form a bit of a worry, or are you not too fussed yet because you have played some difficult sides away from home in Norwich and Sheffield United?
Listen, we've only played 6-7 games in, and the Championship is never an easy game. I'm not really worried yet, but I am starting to have the same concerns what we had last season and the season before, where we just can't seem to score goals. We just can't seem to score, and that's the biggest problem. With Rowett, it's fairly boring football, and he keeps trying to change his formation. And I just don't know if the players can play this formation, which is causing us problems. Players being played out of position, players not being played where they feel comfortable, and when suddenly they're in a position where they feel comfortable, you're looking at a completely different player. So we have got players what can turn it on. Away games always gives us a lot more channeled support, a lot more louder. You know what we're like when we go away from home. Then again, you ain't played us for a few years, been sterilised in the Premiership, you lucky boys. But we are, 300-400 of us on an away day will sound like 15,000, 20,000. We are loud. So with that support, I think anything is possible, especially on an away game. But going to you on a Tuesday night or Wednesday night even is going to be a hard battle to do. I don't know. You'll ask my predictions later on, but Yeah, it's a bit of a worry, especially after your game on Saturday. We come away with a loss and you come away with a 5-1 victory. So you can score, we can't.
To be fair, at least you lost against top of the league. Whether they deserve to be top of the league or whether they'll stay top of the league for very long is another matter. I had them going down, to be honest, at the start. I still think they'll be there.
It's not over yet. I think you're right. I don't think they're going to do that. I mean, I don't rate Ince as a manager anyway. So
no, did well at Blackburn. Well, for us anyway, did well at Blackburn for us. But yeah, you've mentioned Gary Rowett and this formation. Then, what sort of formation is he trying to play that sounds like it's potentially not working?
Well, he's playing a 3-5-2, and it's okay, but he's trying to do, with wing backs, and the problem is that we don't have that creative midfield, so we don't have a bundle of players to run the ball forward. So you've got players, and if you watch some of our games, there's a lot of side passing, backward passing, when really what you need is a couple of great attacking midfielders who can run. We've got players that can run. Bury and people like that, they can run, and Honeyman and that, they can run with a ball, but they don't seem to be given that free rein to do it. He's sticking Bury in the middle rather than sticking him on the wing. And if he gives him free rein, he'll be able to go for it. But when he is in that position, he looks a lot more dangerous player than when he's tucked up in the middle. He seems to be hampered. He just seems to be so frustrated. It's unbelievable. So, yeah, I think the problem is that everyone seems to be going for this wing backs and everything else, which is great for the younger style of players. But the players what have been in the game a while, they're the ones what just can't seem to get that idea of the game. I think it's sort of teaching people to suck eggs slightly, and it's a completely different game to learn.
Yeah, fair enough. You mentioned the lack of creativity as well, and you mentioned off air to me as well that you're quite into your stats and you look at your stats quite deep. So you'll know more about this lack of creativity. Do you think it's basically, is it a formation thing? Is it are you creating chances? Because when I hear the words lack of creativity, that's what I hear, that you're not creating enough chances. But there's been games where you've scored a couple of goals, or is it just you're not finishing the chances?
We're just not finishing them. Most of the time we're not creating the chances. So the problem is that we've got selfish players. If you look at Saturday, Afobe, Fleming on one side of him, on the right-hand side of him, Bury on the left. He had two players open, probably Fleming slightly more open than Bury, but he could have passed either way and decides to be selfish and try to take the ball in. All of a sudden, he's surrounded by three Reading players, loses the ball, the action's over. So there doesn't seem to be that connectivity between the players of going, right, I'll pass the ball to you, you score. It seems to be all about, I want to score, and I'm going to have a go even if they can't do it. But the creativity is just not there. The chances what we get are few and far between. You look at the end of game stats on shots on target. I think for the Reading game, I think there was probably 2 shots on target. Yeah, there was probably 9 shots, but 2 shots on target. And Reading had a few, and they just managed to put their one away.
Yeah, fair enough. Gary Rowett, then, obviously, you mentioned he might not know his own best team. Obviously, you're laughing now. What are your thoughts on it? Because I always, in my head, obviously, like you said, we've not been in the Championship for a while, so I've not known about what he's been doing with Millwall for a while, but I always had him as quite a decent manager. Is it teams that tend to be not working at the minute?
I don't know. The problem is, I think he plays boring football. He's very defensive and everything else. But I mean, if you look at some of the stuff he's teaching online with some of these YouTube sites where they get football coaches on to teach a bit of what they're trying to do, some of the stuff he teaches on there looks great, like fast moving football into the middle straight back out and running at players and stuff. Looks great, but you just don't see it. Some days it will work, some days more likely than not it just doesn't work. And whether or not we need players what will fit into that system, hence why we brought a few players from outside of the English league, a German guy and a Dutch guy, and we brought we've got 2 loanees from Leeds. You can see why they've come on loan. They're good lads. I mean, the Stoke game, Cresswell scored 2 goals, and then all of a sudden they become not, I don't know if I can swear, not rubbish, but you can see the inexperience. I mean, we swear on ours. I don't want to swear on yours. Okay, sorry, leave it there. But you can see that there's a lot to learn with him. But he's a good player in him. I mean, don't get me wrong. Within next 3-5 years, he'll be England captain, and he'll probably be a captain at Leeds. But at the moment, it's a learning curve, and with everything else going on at Millwall, it's a massive learning curve. So we just got to be. I think we've got to be patient to a degree. But how long are we going to be patient with Rowett? He's been here 3 years. Yes, he's established us as a championship club. And listening to players this season, they're saying that we're going to be looking at, pushing for the Premiership. But right now, we're pushing further down the league than the Premiership. I don't even, if we carry on like we are, we're going to be bottom of the league, Fudders. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, to be fair, I understand what you're saying, but looking at the fixtures that you have had some tough away fixtures, and at least they're out of the way. Same again this week. It's a former Premier League side, so it's going to be tough. It's going to be down the bottom early on in the season. Hopefully for your sake, you can push on. I do like to get opposition fans' thoughts on Burnley, especially this season, because we've just changed literally everything about the club. Obviously, we've gone from, you were saying there, Rob, it's traditionally boring football. People would say the same about Daesh, but you don't find it boring when you're winning games. And we were winning games for so long until the last couple of years. And now we've changed it completely. So obviously companies come in, change the style of play. It's all about sort of like possession-based football, fluid tactics and things like that. What from the outside looking in, what do you think? Like, what do you make of what's happened at Burnley this summer?
I think Burnley had a bad season last season because there was a lot of teams around the bottom three. So it was unfortunate for you that you went, unfortunately that a couple of games what you should have won, you didn't, and it put you in the relegation battle. I think this season you'll probably bounce back up. If you don't go automatic, I think you'll definitely be, within the playoffs, because I think Vincent Kompany's got the team working. I think he's got the board on side. I think he's going in the right direction. I mean, Burnley's a bit like us to a degree, that it's a traditional working man's club. It's a traditional, old-fashioned. Unfortunately, you've been in the Premiership a bit, and you've been sanitised by the Premiership way. But you are. I mean, I used to work with a fellow who was Stan Tennant's dad, Stan Tennant's boy. So we've had plenty of conversations of how Millwall and obviously Burnley are very similar in behind how we are with working class and everything else. So I think it's going to be a hard season, but I think you'll be right. I don't think Norwich is going to be safe this season. I think they are in trouble, but I think Burnley will be, if not in the playoffs, you'll be in automatic. I don't think you'll be out of the top 6 easy.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I thought Norwich had a poor season, but it just shows how, they've won 3 games in a row now, I think it is. So that they've pushed on. They're actually above us at the minute. But, we've been a little hit and miss. Obviously, we won the first game of the season, then we've drawn a few, lost at Watford, which not that you expect, but, it's not the worst thing in the world. But we've been feeling like we called it click day the other day when we beat Wigan, because we felt like someone was ready for a stuffing. We thought it was going to be Blackpool. Obviously, unfortunately, they pegged us back. Do you think that we can sort of like kick on after that Wigan game now and maybe push on a little bit? I'm not asking if we're going to stuff you, because I think teams come to the I think it helped against Wigan because it was at Wigan, and Wigan had to kind of take the game to us just because they were at home. So we had the lowest possession we've had so far this season. We only had 55% possession, whereas normally we've been in the 70s, 80s even. And I do think we'll struggle to break you down, if I'm being honest with you. I think if we do win, it's going to be tight. It's going to be 1-0, maybe 2-1, 2-0, something like that. But yeah, do you think Burnley can kick on after that then? Obviously, you're saying you think we'll do quite well. And I tend to agree we'll be there or thereabouts. But as a few Burnley fans...
Hopefully, you don't on our game, because I think if we lose with you and then we lose against Cardiff on Saturday, I think we're going to be banging trouble. But if we can get a point or even a win, which I'm very doubtful of, but we go for a point, then I'll be happy. If we can get a point with you, then I'll be happy. I mean, a lot of the guys I know are looking at, thinking we lose probably 2-0. I don't necessarily think that, but I think, if we can get a point and we can bring the defence what we've had previous, then yeah, I think we can hold you back. But the trouble is, it is at your ground. It is a Wednesday night. It's a long old trip for us. You're looking, 5.5 hours, 6 hours to go up to you and back again. So hopefully the away support will be fairly good and get behind the team. There may be, but listen, we went to Sheffield thinking we were going to stuff Sheffield. Sheffield was thinking we were going to stuff them because we're a bogey team to them, and we got stuffed. So let's hope that you boys are too excited with Saturday's result, which was a good result for you, and you looked good, and that confidence just doesn't work the right way and makes you a little bit shy, and we can come out and hopefully score a quick goal or two and then go from there. But yeah, if you boys stick 2 or 3 by us in the first half, we're banging trouble.
Yeah, well, saving grace for you is we haven't won at home yet. We've drawn every single game because teams just sit back and we don't really have the answers at the minute. We did against Wigan, but like I said, they were forced to come out a little bit. With it difficult to bring teams to and expose them. So fingers crossed. And also, you scared me a little bit. You kept saying Wednesday. It's definitely Tuesday. I was panicking.
Yeah, it's Tuesday.
I've got plans tomorrow to get there. I've got plans to get there.
It's Tuesday,
I'm working Wednesday. I've got I booked Tuesday off. I thought I don't want to get it.
Do you know what it is? It's because it's Monday today, and you keep thinking it's like where it's Bang Holiday Monday. I keep thinking it's Sunday, so I'm like looking for 2 days in advance. But no. But listen, we confuse the listeners as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So definitely, if you are listening to this, turn up to the turf on Tuesday. Don't go on Wednesday because you won't be anybody there.
Turn up on Wednesday, then we might win.
Yeah. Millwall fans, turn up on Wednesday. I do want to ask how you are defensively, just because of what I've just said. We struggle to bring teams out. We struggle to break teams down at the turf. So do you think you guys are good at digging in and not necessarily parking the bus, but just sort of like digging in and frustrating Burnley?
Yes and no. It all depends on the players he puts in. If he picks the players who we want, then with Hutch and Cooper and players alike, then we're okay. We can knuckle down. At the moment, it's the problem being at the moment. It's whether or not we get the right capable players turn up. If we get Hutch in there, then Hutch is basically, he commands, that box. He's the captain. He basically dictates people and will close down with Murray Wallace, etc., etc. But if Hutch ain't playing, then we seem to be a bit hit and miss. Same as everyone in our fan base moans like mad about Billy Mitchell. One of our homegrown lads. Is a Millwall fan. Everything else, everyone moans about him. But he didn't play on Saturday, and we looked absolute pony. But with him in the team, he can hold balls up, set plays on, gives us a little bit different play as such. But again, it's about what 11 players turn up on a day. We could pick our strongest 11, but if they don't actually turn up, then we're banging trouble. But I defensively, I think last year we had the best home league run with the defensive time. So I think that's no reason to come back. We've got Bart in the goal. Bart's superb, but it's silly mistakes. If you look at all the goals what have been scored against us this season so far, I know we're only 6 games in, and let's be honest, we're not really going to understand until being 10, 15 games in. But I think if we don't switch off and make silly mistakes, then I think we're very hard to get a goal against, because we just close you down and we'll go through you. We've got quite a few players what will go in. I mean, look at when was that against Coventry? I think it was Coventry and the tackle within our own 18-yard box, got the ball, put it back up, and that's really how we got the third goal, the second goal, Swansea. So we can do it, and we've got good players, but it's all who turns up on the night for me, mate. Unfortunately, it's one of those. I know it's a cop out, but it is. I could pick the strongest 11, but if they don't turn up on that night, we're banging trouble.
Yeah, fair enough. Just before we get into predictions then and we start wrapping it up, what sort of game are you expecting? Are you expecting a free-flowing, attacking football game? Are you expecting a defensive sort of like sit-back sort of game? What sort of game are you expecting from Millwall?
Hopefully we're going to take it to you. Ideally, I would like us to play a fairly attacking game to try and take it to you. Try and score a goal quick, smart, because then we can settle down and sort of park the bus to a degree and make it a lot harder for you to score. But knowing Rowett and how he's been doing lately, I think we'll be highly defensive and try and get you on the counter. Just sort of really tuck it up at the back. Personally, I'd like us to go out and go for it, but Rowett will probably prove us to be sit back, defend, and then try and push on from there. Let you guys bring it to us all the time, and then we'll try and get a counter strike and score that way. So,
yeah. To be fair, it worked for Blackpool. Like I said, we have struggled. I'll get into predictions now. Then I've already said, man, I do think it'll be a tight game. I think you'll try and frustrate us. There's a lot of nerves at the Turf at the minute. That's why I think we're going to have a really good away form, but not so good at home. There's a lot of nerves because of the new style of play. Some of the older generation don't necessarily like the new style of play. When you're passing it around at the back, don't get me wrong, I get nervous as well. But there's a lot of anxiety in the crowd that you can feel. And I feel like Blackpool capitalised on that. Even their manager, Mike Clapperton, said at full time, said we could feel it in the dugout. So obviously he's going to go into his half-time team talk and say, you need to, what's the word? Keep winding the crowd up, use it to your advantage. So I think you'll try and do that if you're, switched on with it, which our crowd will make you switched on with it if not. So I'm gonna think it's gonna be tight, but I think we might scrape it. Vitinho looked class against Wigan, so I think he might maybe, get an assist again and hopefully another Jay Rodriguez goal and he can keep firing. But what are you thinking for the game, mate, prediction-wise?
I'm thinking probably, a lot of the other guys on the pod are thinking we're probably going to lose it. I don't necessarily always, I see a glass half empty rather than, or half full rather than half empty as such. So I honestly think we could, if we can score quick, then I think we can cause a turn up. We can cause an upset. But at the moment, we seem to not being able to score for Toffee. So I reckon potentially a draw or maybe 2-1. Maybe Jake Cooper and Afobe scores for us and we win 2-1. I mean, Jake Cooper's always one, if you're a betting man, always worth a punt on Jake because Jake's always 9-1 at least, maybe more to score within 90 minutes. So, and he normally makes a few Millwall fans a few quid every season. So, yeah, if you just need something to have a go at, he's always one to put on, mate.
I might have a look at that. I don't normally mention too much betting on here because Burnley fans have had a bit of an issue with betting sponsors over the last few years. So I'm always a little bit reluctant to do it, but I do like a bet. I work for a bookies. I'm always open about that. So of course I like a bet.
Yeah, I don't bet, I don't really bet, but yeah, no.
I think goals in the opening 15 minutes as well might be either way. Because if you say you're going to take the game to us, you could easily get a goal. We've scored early in 2 of the last 3 games, so.
You watch it turn around. We'll do a Wigan on you. We'll end up caning you about 5-1 or something. That would be my dream, but I can't see it. And as long as you don't, if you do beat us, hopefully it won't be more than 2 goals. Then we'll be all right. But yeah, I think we've got 2 hard games this week. We've got you
to be fair,
on Tuesday, and we've got Cardiff on Saturday.
Yeah, we've got some tough games coming up. Obviously, we've got you, then we've got West Brom away, then we've got Norwich at home. But to be fair, like I said for you, mate, it's 3. We've had 3 games at the Turf so far this season. We've drawn all 3, so I do think that you might be able to get some joy in that if you're playing the correct way. But just before we wrap up, I always like to give people a chance to plug their podcast. So where can people find you? Where can people listen to you if they want some Millwall content?
It's easy. Just Google That Millwall Podcast or That Millwall Pod across all socials. One name across all socials, and we're available on YouTube and all good podcasts providers. Just type in That Millwall Podcast, you'll see us, and you'll find us and hopefully have a listen. If you're easily offended by naughty words, then don't necessarily listen. But if you like a grown-up show where it's real debate and conversation, then yeah, have a listen to us.
Excellent, mate. I'll definitely be doing that. But thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure. Good luck for the season, apart from Tuesday, obviously.
Yeah, not Wednesday. Tuesday.
Cheers.